blah, 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 blah.
Welcome to the Our Forever Smiles podcast, a podcast created to support mothers of children who were born with clefts and those who love them. I'm your host, Laura Arroyo, and I'm also a mother of a daughter who was born with a surprise cleft palate. I know the challenges you face every day, whether you have just learned the difficult news of your baby's cleft lip or palate, you're in the midst of pre-op or post-op, or you're an OG cleft mom. This podcast is for you. In a weekly conversation, we will talk about everything from feeding and speech therapy to surgery and school. We'll share tips from guest experts and advocates and even share a little joy in the process. You can listen to Our Forever Smiles wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. I am Laura Arroyo. Thank you to all of our subscribers, new and old. I appreciate all the support that we've received from this wonderful community. You can listen to us via Apple, Spotify, and everywhere that podcasts are available. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not yet, and stay tuned. I always like to start all of our episodes to specifically say that we are not medical doctors and we do not intend for you to use this information that we share here as medical advice. We are parents and advocates who love our children, and we are sharing our own personal experiences. So I have had a really interesting week because I have reached out to a lot of support groups, cleft mom support groups, and I've just been feeling really productive. I've been really excited to see the outpouring of love that this podcast has received. I've been working on this podcast, and the more that I work on it, the more excited that I get to help other mothers. And I'm just really grateful that people are willing to talk with me, to share their stories, and to share resources and reassurance and support. I feel like that is something that is super valuable. I know that it was valuable to me along my journey, so I really am grateful for that. Today, I've invited a guest to our podcast to hopefully provide a little bit of that to our audience here. Just some resources, reassurance, and support as I talked about. Today, we have Kaylee from California. She's the mother of a 5-month baby boy who was born with a cleft lip and cleft palate. I've gathered a little bit of information about Kaylee and her journey, but I'd like to give her the opportunity to share more about herself. So welcome, Kaylee.
Hi, welcome. My name is Kaylee. My baby was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate, complete bilateral cleft lip and palate. And yeah, I'm excited to be on this podcast and talk about some questions and give some reassurance and support. So let's do this.
Wonderful. What made you want to talk about your story on a podcast?
What made me want to talk about my story is that when I got my diagnosis of my baby's cleft lip, I could not really find any resources anywhere, no videos, no podcasts like this. So I think this is an amazing opportunity, and I'd love to be a part of it and share anything that anybody might need to have, because there's so many different possibilities of different clefts, and there's just so many ways that everything can go, and you can't ever be prepared for it, which is the one crazy thing about cleft. It could be all over it could be all different kinds, like I said. So when you messaged me, I just really wanted to be a part of this, and I wanted to just be there for the community. We're a small knit community, and there's not many of our babies, and our babies need the support and love, and it's not a scary thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. I feel like I share the same sentiment. So Giselle, my daughter, she was born with a cleft palate only. She was only cleft affected. And so I didn't know until she was born. Yeah. And so of course it came as a complete shock to me. And I was just kind of, and you'd just be so surprised at how many medical professionals have little knowledge about cleft specific issues. And so that was something that we definitely ran into as a family. So I guess I would love to know more about when you found out, like from the time, and actually your journey from the time that you found out that you were pregnant until birth. So can you share a little bit about your pregnancy and when you found out?
Yeah. So I had a really good pregnancy. I was super smooth. Found out I was having a boy for my NIPT testing. Super excited. And I had my anatomy testing or my anatomy ultrasound. And I went to the first one. They couldn't get his face or his heart. So they're like, okay, we're going to reschedule for next week. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I went by myself. I told my husband, hey, just stay home. It's fine. You're working. Told my mom to stay home. I'm like, it's fine. And it was honestly not the best like diagnosis. It was my ultrasound technician, I feel like, took it a very bad way, because every time I go in I'm like, oh, because she always tells me if there's anything wrong I'll go get the doctor, but she tells me it's life threatening. So I'm like, okay, so
What?
like there's nothing gonna happen. Yeah, so she's like, hey, I'll be a moment. And I'm like, okay. She's like, told me to clean up my belly. She's like, yeah, I'll be right back. And she's gone for like 15 minutes and I'm like, what the hell? Like, my baby has a heart problem. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm crying. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just overwhelmed. And then she pulls me back to the nurse practitioner because my doctor was off. And she's like, hey, like, we did find a bilateral cleft lip and a possible palate. We can't tell by the palate because we have to see when they're born. And I'm like, I automatically thought surgeries. And I'm like, okay. And I knew bilateral meant 2 of them. So I already knew what cleft lip was from doing projects at school and stuff, like for third world countries and all that. So I automatically knew what was going on. I just didn't know like how much went into everything until I got home. So I was just a wreck until I had gotten home. Me and my husband pulled on YouTube, Google, all kinds of stuff. And I mourned the fact that I wasn't going to be able to do a lot of things, not necessarily because my baby has that, but like I read so many negative things that come with it. And it's not a negative thing once you do have your baby. And I was mourning maybe for a week. For like a week maybe. And then I was like, you know what? This is my reality. I need to be prepared. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do for my little one. Oh, it makes me want to cry because I'm like, oh, it was such like...
Yeah, I get like that too, yeah. I understand.
And I think my family had took it harder than I took it. I think I was the stronger one. Which is surprising because I'm the one who had to like navigate through everything. And I felt like I was on my own for just a little bit. But then my husband finally got on board with me after we got the ultrasound pictures because he's very religious. He's like, let's let God handle it and it's not going to happen. I'm like, it is happening. Like, it was very in denial for him and his side. And that's also what made it harder because they didn't want to accept it. A lot of people didn't want to accept it. So throughout the pregnancy, I think until I was about like 32 weeks, everybody was finally like, okay, like this is happening. And nobody really wanted to hear anything about it until I was getting closer to giving birth. Because everybody just thought it was a negative thing, that I'm just trying to look for attention. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to educate you. Like, this is what's going to happen. And these are the steps we have to take. And we're going to take it step by step. Like, I'm not trying to... I feel like people thought that I was just looking to just talk about me. But I worked with a whole bunch of girls. I was pregnant as a server. Like, I was, like, going around everywhere. And I would talk about, like... And I was working because I didn't know how much surgeries were going to be. I didn't know how much anything was going to be. So a lot of people just don't want to hear about your problems in general, I guess. But it's not necessarily something I could have stopped. And I figured that out. I was very concerned that since I had gotten a flu in the beginning of my pregnancy, that it caused it. I was also going to the gym 2 times a day and taking pre-workout 2 times a day. Don't know if that caused it. And or if it was just something that had happened, because that happens also. So it was just a lot.
That's so interesting. That's really, really interesting that you said that about pre-workout, because I wasn't taking it as often as I usually would, but I did take it sometimes, and I had thought about that as well. Like, what was the determining factor? Us as mothers of children that have clefts, we always think like we want to think like, okay, what caused this? So we go into that mode.
Yeah.
And what you said about just the way that you were feeling and that you took it easier than your extended family and your husband's family is sort of the way that I was as well. But I had this sense of like, I am my child's advocate.
Yeah.
And it was almost like second nature to me to like, I have to do this. Like, I'm the only person that can do this for her, and I have to take this head on. And I just don't have, time to like really like soak, what I mean? And like in my sadness and like be really like, of course, like I had moments that were just, I was just so sad because of like all of the appointments that I had in the beginning too. It was just so overwhelming for me, seeing so many different people as well. So yeah. So then I guess let's fast forward to when your son was born. So I know that your family didn't really take it that well. What were you expecting when you gave birth to him? What were the feelings that you were feeling that day, and like, what did that entail from you and from your family? What do you think that they were anticipating or feeling?
I think once I got to that point where I was going to give birth, everybody was at that point excited to meet him, because everybody had just accepted the fact that this was going to be happening and that I was strong enough to navigate everything. They knew I was trying to meet up with hospitals before he was born, all kinds of stuff like that. So they knew I had all my ducks in a row. So they're like, okay, she's got this. So now they're just excited to meet him at this point. But he did not want to come out, so I had to get an induction. I did get an induction, which my birth was crazy. It was really crazy. And as soon as he was born, they had like 15 people in the room. My doctor hadn't delivered a cleft baby in 10 years. So they didn't know what to expect. Because I had like my husband and my sister in there, and I was told that they usually have like 2 people in there or something, but there were so many people in there with me, and there was like 2 of everybody in there. So because they didn't know what to expect. They didn't know if he was going to be breathing right. They didn't know if he was going to be doing all that, I guess. So he had an APGAR score, I think, of, what's the top? It's like 9 or something. So I think he had like an 8. His color was just a little bit off. So they said that he was very healthy when he was born. And then breastfeeding, like when you give birth, they try to push the breastfeeding on you like right away. And he had a little suck, so I had like the nipple shield on, which helped me. And he was getting a little bit out, but I had a lot of negativity from certain nurses in there. But other nurses were advocating for me, saying, go, 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 you got this. But other older ones were like, you can't do that. You can't do that. He's not getting enough calories. So it was like super, like, what's it called? Discouraging in a way. And I had to be there for 2 days because my flow wasn't coming and stuff. But that wasn't because of him or anything. He didn't have to go to the NICU. He didn't have to do any of that. He got to stay with me the whole time.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I love that.
It was super good. I was wanting to stay there because they were offering the donated breast milk. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay there for a little bit, and then once it and then it finally came in, and I was like, okay, I want to go home.
Oh, yeah. Got you. Okay. Oh, well, that is so wonderful. So, with my experience, because they didn't know that I was gonna have that my daughter was gonna have a cleft palate. We just had the usual people that were in the room. It was like the nurse and my midwife. But then what happened is kind of the opposite to what happened to you. They were encouraging me to breastfeed, but it's because they had no idea that children that are born with cleft palates don't really have the ability for suction, and they struggle a lot. Yeah. And they struggle a lot. So she wasn't, getting anything. And it was the same thing, kind of what you're saying too. I was getting so much conflicting information, and I was very irritated about that. And so I was like, I mean, I can laugh now, and forgive me for I listen to people's stories and I reflect on my own, and I laugh about a lot of things. But it's not about the thing. It's just the absurdity of things, you know? And so, yeah, my daughter did end up in the NICU, and she wasn't able to, she didn't stay too long, but we were able to feed her through the pigeon bottle, which was a great, wonderful feeding tool for her. So that was pretty much what she did. And I pumped for a while, but then I moved to formula because she didn't really like my breast milk. Is so weird. I don't know. So I don't know what it was with her. Well, actually, I don't know what it was with me. And I had so many things that, so much stress, so many stressors that I had to deal with at that time, that I wasn't willing to go on an elimination diet to figure out what it was that she wasn't liking. She was having a lot of reflux. She was having more reflux on the breast milk than she was with that, on formula. Really? So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even. That's crazy. It's so interesting, but it had to be something that I was eating. Yeah. And so breastfeeding is no joke. I would have had to go through.
Pumping and breastfeeding is no joke, bro.
It is a labor. It's a labor of love. I tell everyone. Yeah. So your son has a bilateral cleft lip, and so was the palate just on one side, or was it a full cleft palate?
It's full, but it's just right down the middle, so it's hard and soft.
Oh, hard and okay, gotcha. Okay, and he's not. He's had his lip repair, right?
Yes, he did. He had it a month ago now. Yesterday was a month ago.
Yeah. Okay, so how are you feeling after that? How was his recovery? Did you get any sleep?
It was honestly, has your baby had her surgery yet for her palate?
Yeah, she had her palate repair at 10 months. Yeah. And she's super resilient, but she did struggle. But I think it had to do with some just age regression anyway. Mm-hmm. She'd learned to stand the day before her surgery. Mm-hmm. And so, it was she had a big developmental milestone the day before. And so that kind of threw her off because she was just trying to stand up all the time. So she wasn't sleeping well on top of the surgery.
Oh, man. Okay, yeah, no, so, you know the feeling when you just want to take the pain away from your baby? I feel like it was a very, very rough day for me and my husband. We were the first surgery of the day. We went in, we had to be at LA by 5:30. We live 2 hours away, so we were by 5:30 for pre-op, and then 7:30 is when I had to give him away, which was horrible. It was a mess. And it was a 3-4 hour thing, because I guess they take an hour for anesthesia and stuff like that. So it was 4 hours, and I get to see him at 11. But then you think your baby's gonna be all not to say doped up on medicine, but you think they're gonna be knocked out in the bed, right? No, he was wide awake.
Yes, same. I walked around the corner and my daughter was literally come get me.
Yes. And then
she had her eyes. She has really big eyes.
Yeah, and it was automatic. Yeah. He just looks different. It's it's my first time seeing him. He's in just so much pain and he's crying his eyes out, bro. They're like, "Here, mama," and I'm like, "Why is he so upset?" They're like, "'Cause he just went through surgery." I was like, "I get that, but he doesn't have Tylenol or anything in it." He seems like he's in so much pain and just the blood drooling from his mouth. It was crazy. And we had to stay the night there, and it was no sleep for sure for at least I feel like he's finally slept through the night, because my baby, since 5 weeks old, he would sleep from 9 p.m. to 8 in the morning. like solid. And then after that, it disrupted the whole thing. Plus, he was 4 months, so he was already going through like a little regression. So
Oh yeah.
it was like every 2 hours, girl. I was like, I did not miss it. It was like having a newborn all over again. And it was like that for, I think, like 2.5 weeks. And he finally started sleeping through the night again. And I'm just so grateful for it.
Yes, yeah. So about 2 weeks, he was back to his self, his normal self. Yeah, that's good. And so I guess like outside of just seeing him like crying and stuff, like once his incision started to heal, I guess what was like your feeling about seeing his new smile? I know that when you first found out, it took a while for you to kind of accept that this is the situation, right? And that you needed to, get, with it and get all of your ducks in a row in order to make sure that you're the, biggest advocate for your child. And so it's like you've done all this, right? And then you get up to the moment that it's, you've seen your son, right, for 4 months, right, with this beautiful smile that he was born with. And then he is, he goes through surgery and he's healing. So how is that feeling of seeing his new smile?
It's bittersweet. It's like, it's heartbreaking, but amazing at the same time. He started smiling around like the 3-month point. So we had just a full month of his little cleft smile. And it was the best thing. It was so cute. It was so wide. And he was so happy. But yeah, and then the surgery happened, and we didn't see that smile again for like a week. I feel like we didn't see a smile, but then his new little tight smile, it is also the best thing ever because it's all tight. So that's also the best thing ever. So it's just like it can't be bad. It's like it's sad, and it's like you'll never forget the first smile though. And it's a new chapter. It closed and the new one's opened. It's being a cleft mom has a lot of sacrifices and a lot of ups and downs, but overall it's amazing to be able to help your baby in that kind of way. So I know in the end of the day, it's all benefiting him.
Absolutely. And so are you planning on having palate repair at the 10-month mark, or what are you all thinking?
So I think my doctor, he wants to do it at 18 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he told me that the way he rolls is that he said that he wants to do this surgery because it's bilateral. Unless if it was unilateral, he does at 2 weeks old. So I'm like, that's crazy to me.
Oh,
that's crazy. So, but bilateral has to screw out a little bit more and stretch a little bit because it's so like up there from just being born. So he wants to do that at 4 months, 3 to 4 months. And then palate repair is at like 18 months. So we're looking towards like this time next year, I believe. Give or take.
Oh, okay. Okay. So are you looking forward to that? And have they mentioned any other additional surgeries that he would have after his palate repair?
Yeah, they have. He has to go through quite a bit. So since he has the bilateral, it splits his gums. So when he's around 8 years old, he's going to do 2 separate surgeries for it. And he's going to take like a hip graft. And he's going to put it in his gums. So I think that's the one I'm pretty nervous about. But at 8 years old, they understand what's going on. And they're not like 4 months old and they're like, why do I hurt? You
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, like you want to just take the pain from them and explain it to them, but they can't understand it. But you can explain that to an 8-year-old before they go in. And like they talked about possible nose reconstruction at 5 years old, palate repair. They talked about the 2 separate ones. They talked about what else? They talked about possible reevaluation of the lip and maybe like a redo of it if we need that. A lot of dental work. He's gonna have to do braces. What else is there? He was born with clogged ears, like through amniotic fluid, because he couldn't with the palate. I don't know if your daughter had the same thing, but he couldn't swallow, so he couldn't flush it out. So he had to get ear tubes on his surgery, so he has to get those reevaluated every year.
Yeah. So how do you like just hearing that my heart aches, for you and for your family, but also, um you sound like you're, up to the challenge and just ready to like be there for your son. I guess how do you plan on, and just ensuring that you're taking care of yourself throughout this entire journey, and how do you ensure that you're the biggest advocate for your son throughout this entire process?
I feel like I post a lot and I let my family know what's going on Facebook. Facebook's a really big family platform for me. So I have family all over. My husband's a very
Mm-hmm.
big support system now for me and Julius. He's
Mm-hmm.
very he's very involved with me, and I feel like we've talked about it. We've talked about the different things we're going to have to go through, but we kind of take a sense of pride in it because we're able to help him. And we're able to instill
Yeah.
confidence in him as he grows up and let him know like it's it's going to be all okay. And that's also why like we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to have siblings so close because he's going to have his sibling who has his back as well if we're not there. So we just want like we want it all around collective wherever he's at, cuz it's
Mm-hmm.
also like that's another thing when I was pregnant. I don't know if you thought the same thing with your baby having a cleft palate, like just the way kids are nowadays, like they're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
you see just a lot more bullying nowadays and a lot more stuff. So it's just like you have to be
Yeah.
strong for your kid. You can't be and yourself. You have to be strong for yourself as well. And I feel like I do take good care of myself, and I do get my moments where I go to work and I'm like, like just newborn stuff. You gotta take your mommy break. So I just like I feel like I refresh
Yeah.
myself. Even a shower refreshes me. I'm like, okay, I'm good now. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm able to take care of myself through my dad and my husband and stuff like that. And that does allow
Yeah.
me to add more effort and more time and attention to my son and for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all going to be okay, I think.
Yeah. Well, Kaylee just shared with me before our call that she is expecting again, which,
Yeah.
yay,
Thank you.
congratulations. So if you don't mind sharing, how far along are you?
About to be 10 weeks, so I'm still early, but they're going to be born in the same month, just a year apart. So, yeah, I
Wonderful.
wanted it like that. Me and my sister are Irish twins, so it's just like a super nice thing to have that sibling right there. So,
Yes.
I'm,
And so is there any.
yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
fear. I do have a fear of another cleft, but at the same time, it's like I have eliminated a lot of things out of my life at this point, like caffeine and pre workout, and
Mm-hmm.
I have eliminated so much. I'm like, I haven't gotten sick, nothing like that. So
Mm.
I'm praying for the best, and if it does happen again, it does happen again. But I'll have more of an understanding of what's going on with me, and it's kind of like crazy because they give you the options for genetic testing, but then they're backed up like crazy. So it's like what the heck.
Yeah.
So it's like all crazy.
Mm-hmm. And then sometimes it doesn't even.
Matter.
In my case, yeah, we did everything. We did the nip, and then we also did a comprehensive panel, and it didn't pick up on anything. And we also did her genetic testing after she was born as well, which is looking for deletions and that thing to see if she has any syndromes or anything that caused her cleft, and they didn't find anything. So of course they determined that it was just an isolated incident, not through
Yeah.
genetics. Um but yeah, so sometimes, I mean, I think I'm a firm believer that I do wish that I would have known when I was pregnant, only because just like yourself, like I really wish that I could have gotten my ducks in a row, and I could have prepared, and I could have educated, and I could have told people and prepared people, and just
Yeah.
been better emotionally. Had I known, I don't think I would have still had a hard time because it was rough seeing a lot of doctors at once, but I feel like I would have been more accepting of what was happening. So there's like pros and cons and things like
Yeah.
that. So what would you tell a mom who is just a few weeks post-op, and that is grieving their child's pre-op smile.
That it gets back to normal, and that your baby acts the same. Your baby is the same baby, and nothing's changed. Just a little bit of an appearance, but nothing's changed, and that you will appreciate how far technology has gone at this point. It is insane, and you will just be absolutely in awe of your baby once they start smiling and laughing again. It's the best thing, and I'm so grateful we live in a day and age now. Like, they've known about this for a long time, of course, but I'm grateful that we have the resources now to where they can just do this amazing work.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so what is something that you wish people knew about children with cleft lip and palate in general?
I wish that they would know that every case is different. Like, I did think I was prepared for everything, but I honestly still wasn't. My baby was born and he had a little extra things than other babies with cleft, or he had a little bit less than other babies with cleft, and I am grateful for our situation because there's a lot of things that could have also happened that there could have been correlated with cleft. It's just so many things, and it's just you have to wait until they're born, and then when you see them, and then you're able to go to the doctors. It's just, I don't know. Like, I wish people would have told me just relax, but nobody in my family has a cleft. Nobody has a cleft, so everybody was expecting like the worst in a way. So it was just, I was the first. Julius is the first family member with cleft in both sides of the family. I would say that the hardest part would be just seeing so many doctors. It's like something I don't wish upon anybody, but you're gonna have to do it if you have a baby with cleft. And it's just, especially because a lot of doctors aren't educated on cleft, so you're gonna have to, unless you live in the city, you have to drive way out of town. You have to sometimes stay the night out of town. It's just a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of time into it. So just expect that as a mom to be a baby with cleft or palate. Like, you would know, like, unless you live in the city. Like, my closest hospital is like Los Angeles, so I live in Palm Springs, so it's like way out the way. But you do what you have to do for your baby. So I would say just the doctor's visits and spending all day at the hospital with people, seeing different doctors and stuff. Yeah, that's hard.
It is. No. It's surrounded by challenging to see, but it is a great resource. Please, if you have one in your area or close to the hospital that your child is visiting or staying at, please use that as a resource. So every episode I do a Cleft Mom question of the week. And so I want to talk about the question that we have this week. So Kaylee and I will answer this question for you all. I will let Kaylee go first. So the question is, do you ever experience anger? My son is 11 months, and we are preparing for our palate surgery next week. I have an overwhelming anxiety, and on top of that, I always get comments from friends and family like, you need to be strong for him, and it could be worse. They are right, but it also could have been better. I could have not had a child born with a cleft palate. Everyone's heart is different. It creates a lot of resentment and anger in me. How do I respond to these comments? And how do I manage my emotions throughout our journey?
You just gotta, I don't even know. Like, you just have to be cordial, I guess. Like, you want to say so many things to people who act like they know everything. Yeah. And there's so many people in this world who think they know everything because they read one article or something. So I mean, I did have a lot of anger when I found out about my child's condition, and I was crying. I went to work. I found out that like the day before work and everything. I was still emotional, and my friend, she's a nurse, or she's gonna be a nurse, and she was telling me she already knew what I was talking about, and she knows that it's more than just one surgery. But all the girls I had worked with, they're like, "Oh, well, it's just one surgery and you're fine. It's not that bad." I was so upset. It's not just one surgery, like, for your information. There's a lot of surgeries. But it's all you can do is just educate them on how much you're going through. Not what, like, people think you want them to feel bad for you, but you're not asking for that. You're just expressing, like, you're just expressing your challenges at the moment. And it's not a bad thing for people to push you away. Creates resentment. It creates an isolated space. And if people are telling her that, she doesn't need those friends. And I don't want to surround myself with anybody who's negative towards my son as well. I wouldn't do that because it's not a negative thing. Cleft isn't a negative thing. It could be better. It could have gone a normal pregnancy, but at the end of the day, like, I'm religious, and I think God chose me for him because he thinks I can handle him. He thinks I can handle what all the processes, me and my husband together. We're a strong unit. And in a way, it is what it is, you know? So it's just like, to handle those kind of comments, it's just educate. I think that's the most powerful thing, just to educate. I don't know, though. What do you think?
I struggled. I actually didn't have very many friends or family say that I need to be strong or that it could be worse. Thankfully, no one. I actually kept it from a lot of people because I think I avoided having people tell me things because me personally, I can get very. The kind way to say that is sassy. So, but like, I'm sorry, but I will send people straight to hell. That is me. But I don't want to be that way, and so I really didn't tell. I actually decided not to tell anyone until after her genetic testing, and the reason being is because I didn't want to have another thing to share. Like if I found out that she did have some type of disorder or syndrome along with her cleft, I wanted to share all the information at once. So the people that knew were my direct family members, and they literally had no clue what I was going through. The other thing that I struggled with is that I, because my daughter is not lip affected, I feel like, just like how you said, oh, it's just one surgery. And hopefully it is just one surgery for her. It's possibly two surgeries if she developed like a fistula or if they need to do a correction. But I think that because of that, sometimes it can be a little bit dismissive about all the things that we went through. And I love the thing that you said earlier in the episode is like, I wish that more people knew that when I think they're not realizing what's going on in terms of like your anatomy. And I wish people knew that when you don't have the roof of your mouth, essentially, or your palate, that food goes into your nose and fluid goes into your ears. And when you have fluid in your ears, you can't hear. And when you can't hear, you can't talk. And I think that people don't make that connection, that it impacts so many different things. And it is a big deal. And so for me, the question really resonates with me. The thing that I do is I just, I guess the last question in it is, how do I manage my emotions throughout the journey? And it is just, it's that rewarding feeling and that sense of pride that you talked about as well, that like, I'm here for my child and we're going to get through this. Like, I don't care. I'm going to cry and scream and feel, wish I could take the pain away from my child. But at the end of the day, I'm going to show up to that doctor's office. I'm going to be the person that, is going to advocate for my child and going to show up for them. And they'll always know that they have me and that I'm walking with them through this journey. And that alone, I feel like has helped me. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, I
just
agree with
in,
that. Biggest lesson, I think, because I'm a big planner, I've learned now in my life you can't plan for everything. That, which you just, it's just not the way life works. You can't be there for everything. You can't know everything 100%. That's the biggest lesson I've learned. So now I expect anything in life. I expect anything and everything. I don't necessarily plan for the worst, but
yeah.
I don't plan for the best. So I'm just right there in the middle, I guess. Best advice is just that it gets better. I feel like I've heard that before. I'm in the Cleft Mom support group on Facebook, and they're very, very educational, and they're very optimistic, and they're very, what's it called, resourceful. And they say a lot of things, and their babies are grown up, and I just see their babies with like their children had similar cases like my child, but my baby's just the baby version of them at this point, and they're thriving. So I see it gets better, and I look forward to everything he has to go through at this point. I'm not dreading anything. You just gotta look forward and push forward. I think that's the best advice
I
I've
love
seen.
that.
Is, like,
And
just push
I
forward,
also
it
see
gets
the,
better. Yeah.
like other cleft moms or their children are, I mean, from 8 to like 18, and you'll see they'll post pictures with so much pride and so much joy and just provide that reassurance. I felt like that was so heartwarming when I first, joined groups as well, just to see like other moms and with their adult children just providing some reassurance to us that just found out or are struggling through surgeries or different things that we're going through in the middle of our journey. So, but I love that that you said that just keep pushing forward and that things will get better, because they do. And they have every little surgery procedure as they get older. Things just continue to get better. So, yeah.
It just betters them. It can't get worse. So it's just like, just gotta keep going. And then I do recommend strongly following a support group for anybody who might watch this. I do strongly support that, because Google can't tell you everything like the moms who've been through this can. For sure. And then I even follow a page where there's cleft kids who are grown up, like my age, and they're talking about what they have to go through and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's interesting to see adults with like who were born with cleft talk
I'm
about
grateful.
their stuff too.
I'm grateful that you've decided to join the podcast. We also do have some special guests lined up, adults that have had clefts as well. That hopefully they're going to join us to talk about their experience. But yeah, I just want to thank you for speaking about Julius and your wonderful family. I really, really wish you all the best of luck in your journey. Continue to stay strong because obviously, he needs you and you're his biggest advocate. And thank you for providing, your story here for other moms. And we're going to close out the episode, but is there anything else you want to share? Are you...
Don't listen to Google. Google scares you. Google scares the crap out of you. Yes. Google will say that your baby won't survive with a cleft lip. So don't listen to Google. No. Listen to real people and real stories. No, don't listen to that stuff. That's
just
scares
kidding,
the crap
but
that's what I gotta say.
Don't when you get your ultrasound, don't panic. Everything will be okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening to the Our Forever Smiles, Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. Be sure to subscribe and submit a review of the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I hope that you have enjoyed this audio experience. Maybe you cried a little, laughed a little, but more importantly, I hope that you feel a little piece of reassurance and even joy in your journey. Talk to you next week.